Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Craig Wicks with the AWS Partner Organization with a program called SaaS Factory. This is PEX209, Building Your SaaS Journey on AWS. I'm here with Merve Soner, my colleague, and we'll be co-presenting today. I wanted to start with a little bit of a story about history of SaaS. I'm kind of a SaaS geek and maybe a history geek, and those things combined may be pretty scary. But one of the first SaaS companies that people really recognize is a company that so we started just 8 miles from where I grew up, which is kind of crazy. A company based out of Redmond, Washington, in the expense management space. Some of you may be guessing already who this is. They certainly helped my life a little bit. But in 1998, they IPO'd as a company and had a $1 billion valuation, right? Initially out of that IPO. By the time in 2001, where the market had crashed, they had dropped to $8 million, right? So this company's Concur, right? Some of you may know Concur. But they bet the business on SaaS in 2001, and then were sold to SAP just, 13 years later. So the story kind of connects Merve and I. She worked at SAP, which became the acquiring company, and I grew up not too far from where it started. Some people may say there are other SaaS companies that came first, but Concur really resonated with me as really taking a risk and a bet on SaaS and committing to that, and that certainly paid dividends in terms of what they've done. Sometimes they like my life easy, sometimes it's a little difficult using, but certainly it's a successful SaaS company. So today, really want to focus on looking at SaaS from our perspective here at AWS, and particularly with the program that Merve and I are involved in called SaaS Factory. So SaaS Factory has been around for about 5 years, and we really help organizations build SaaS solutions on AWS. And some of you may have seen our content. There's lots of sessions and things out there. But today, we really want to do a few things. One, provide a market perspective, so a view on kind of what we see happening today from the market, really gain insights through our experience. And in this, Merve and I will do a little bit of role play. We're going to play CPOs, so you can see some bad acting as well up here. But we thought that would be a good way to really share insights in terms of what we've seen and really separate good SaaS from great SaaS, which we've been talking about. We're assuming now everyone is on a path to SaaS as a software company or those that want to deliver services to customers. And really now it's about separating what's good versus great. And then we're going to highlight some resources available for the AWS Partner Network and also through our program. So what this session doesn't contain, this is not a technical session, right? If you guys want to dive into SaaS architecture or look at AWS services that relate to it, look at aspects of multi-tenancy, there's a whole bunch of technical sessions here. In fact, there's one after this one, I think even shortly after, with Todd Golding and others presenting. There's also a host of content we have available through the SaaS Factory Insights Hub at AWS that you can sort of peruse afterwards and dive deeper on that. So with that, I'll get started and take a look at the agenda. Really quick, just the SaaS market. I'll give you a perspective from me in terms of what's happening there. We'll get into that role play, looking at what is SaaS anyway, and perspective of two CPOs having a conversation, if you will. We'll talk about some resources we see really valuable, and also sprinkle in some references and examples we have from our own experience in terms of what's there. So that's it. So I wanted to start by really thinking about the end customer, right? We often start by thinking about working backwards from end customers. And this is a study that AWS did looking at executives, and really what was the focus for their transformation? You know, what was the driving force behind it? And so this was a study that's available publicly out there. But if you look at, I'll go ahead and build this one out. But if you look at it, there's sort of two primary objectives. One, they really saw growth opportunity with this transformation, so growing revenue, market share, reinventing a business model, 52%. 38% really saw it as more of an efficiency gain, right? Interesting now, maybe in current climate, if these might be flipped. Right? You could say that maybe that people are thinking about it a little differently. It's also interesting that people view SaaS as a driver for transformation in the organization. There's been studies in the past that show SaaS really as a way to create more productivity in your organization and sort of put resources to more strategic tasks. SaaS can be really a driver for transformation. We see that across our businesses as well. But what's in it, right, in terms of this business strategy for SaaS? And how many are familiar with something called the fish model? You guys seen this in SaaS? No? Okay, some people. So there's a book out there I highly recommend called the Technology as a Service Playbook. That was really, I think for me, still the Bible on SaaS and as a service. And they talk about a fish model where it's sort of the bottom of the fish is this drop in revenue, and the top of the fish is this rise in cost that you see going through some kind of transformation like SaaS or subscription, right? And so the idea is to get through the other side, right? And they've worked with numerous companies that have seen this model play out. But what's kind of inside that fish? Like, what are the guts of the fish, if you will? Sorry to get graphic, but what are some of those decisions that you see as a SaaS company or a prospective SaaS company you want to make? And we often see the starting points are the same. Maybe there's an on-premises product, and it's really about getting the leadership alignment and product sort of strategy right in terms of, hey, we really want to build to SaaS, and what does that look like? And this is potentially where it gets more complicated. And one frame that we see that's useful here is to think about, what are you going to grow into in terms of customers or segments or markets, and what are you really going to try to retain, right? Existing customers, install base, right? And this is where the things start to get interesting, right? I would say one that we see pretty common in our experience is organizations that come to us and want to modernize an existing application they have, move it to AWS, and then deliver that in a SaaS model and start to pick that application apart, that modernization journey and migration journey they're on. But there's others as well too, a new SaaS solution, greenfield opportunities. You're a startup organization, you're thinking about SaaS for the first time, what does that look like? Or you're adding to your portfolio to complement what you have already. And here we often see the strategies about new customers. But there's others related to retention too. So if you look at sort of a managed services model, I would say a lot of SaaS companies actually look like a managed services model when you go under the covers a little bit and pull things apart. That's a different story. But many organizations look at this as a model, as a transition to SaaS, or at least to support customers in terms of what they're doing in the cloud. And you can continue on premises. I met with an organization just today. It was clear with their existing install base, they're going to be on premises for some time, right? And so you need to start thinking about what does the end of support look like in some of these models, because certainly maintaining all these sort of across these, and there could be other branches you guys can probably imagine. In a more complicated version of this, we even have little chutes and ladders going across these little lines. This kind of looks like a NCAA tournament bracket or perhaps a World Cup bracket. We also have programs that help support you here. So one I wanted to highlight that's a part of the partner organization is the ISV workload migration program. So that's really about taking customers that are in install base today on premises and moving them to your SaaS solution through incentives and funding and working with consulting partners and others there. And so we see really many organizations struggling with this today. This is kind of where things are at, right? I should mention also that this is really built around the cloud adoption framework that some of you may be familiar with, that AWS put out a number of years ago. And so I think this next year we're going to write more about this and talk more about these decisions along the way that are really at the kind of the heart of that product transformation in SaaS. So if folks are interested, please send us some comments, and we'd love to kind of build this out to be more prescriptive guidance that we see from our perspective. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the market, and I was struggling with the title here, so I ended up with the very cliche, a rock and a hard place. But I think there are some challenges today we just need to be fully transparent you're going through and organizations are going through. But maybe first, kind of starting with the good news, we still see a tremendous market upside for SaaS. $700 billion by 2030, this is IDC data. We also see this year from IDC as well, they talk about SaaS passing over 50% of software revenue is delivered in a SaaS model. So more than 50% of the revenue. So that's unbelievable in terms of what's happening. It may have even been accelerated if you look at what's happening in the pandemic and sort of the economic transformation we're going through right now. But the market is still huge and growing. And this is kind of playing it out to 2030, right? So kind of looking out a little bit. I think with SaaS, you certainly have to play the long game and think about it as a long-term strategy. But there's a lot of challenges for companies that are building software, and particularly SaaS these days. One I've been kind of researching more recently is around the technical challenge and the gap to find people. So this is data from the US Department of Labor. It talks a shortage of developers, right? 40 million today, 85 million in 2030. And we're not producing college graduates fast enough to really make that gap up. So it really becomes about retraining and reskilling. And I do think there's going to be a big focus from the partner organization, if you listen to Ruba's keynote tomorrow, talking about training and certification programs available to partners, that we really want to invest there and support what you're doing. And then finally, I looked kind of most recently, I wanted to pull some very recent data, and there's OpenView puts out a lot of good data around SaaS benchmarks. And one of the things they look at is what are SaaS companies doing in 2023, right? What's happening there? And what they found, kind of looking at across different sized organizations, that they were cutting costs, even those that had runway. And some of you may be in this position where you're venture capital funded and sort of looking at sort of what's next for us. But they were looking at cost reductions of 26% across all those different businesses, even for those that had a long runway. So really interesting to see what companies are doing around this. I would also end with, looking at this market perspective, software and even SaaS can be deflationary in some ways, right? Where companies look to invest in software and SaaS to improve productivity when they may not have the workforce that they did before, right? So there is some resiliency to SaaS and certainly software in terms of what we've seen in past sort of economic dips that are there. So still really bullish on the market and the opportunity here, but certainly we could talk the whole time about what's happening in the SaaS market. Maybe I'll leave it there. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Merve, who's going to talk a little bit more about this role play. We'll do just in a second.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So we heard about the key trends and challenges in the SaaS market, and Craig also provided some flavors of different SaaS business models, actually. And at this part, we would like to dive deep into what SaaS really is, because probably you hear a lot of buzzwords when you hear about SaaS, like anything from product-led growth to subscription-based, consumption-based, pricing and everything. So we just want to really set the stage with some definition, and then we will build upon that. So if you move to the next slide, at SaaS Factory, we actually have a very distinct definition of SaaS, and I'd like to kind of take a second to really read it through. Software as a service is a business and software delivery model that enables organizations to offer their solution in a low friction and service-centric approach. SaaS model relies on agility and innovation, and it promotes growth, reach, and innovation. So if you closer look at this definition, and if we kind of try to highlight a few key areas here, you will see our definition actually focuses on the transformation of business and technology at the same time. We focus on customer experience, we focus on agility and innovation, and we focus on business growth. So these are some of the key pillars of SaaS offerings, and actually depending on your business, your market, your customers, the way you build, operate, or manage your SaaS solutions could be slightly different. And at that point, you may be thinking, like, are we really a SaaS company, or are we kind of mature enough to say that we are a SaaS company? So at this point, we would like to kind of introduce 4 key pillars that you can actually use to test your approach to SaaS. So the first pillar is actually around business planning. So this is where you think about like your motivation, really, why you are building SaaS, why you are offering SaaS, what's the business case for you, what's the internal alignment that you have within your organization. The second pillar is about customer experience. And this is actually beyond the product experience. It's everything that your customers have touched with your company throughout their life cycle. The third pillar is really about operating the SaaS business. So how do you operate your day-to-day operations? How you make sure that you provide the value to your customers in the SaaS environment. And the last pillar is, again, just the go-to-market. And this is really about how you market, sell your SaaS solution. So right now, we will just move to this role play, where Craig and myself, we will be playing CPOs of 2 respective SaaS companies. And you will kind of hear how these companies approach these 4 pillars within their business model. And you will kind of see the differences between them. And in the end, we will just have a quick wrap-up just to kind of demonstrate how those decisions or how their approach actually impacts their business results. So let's start. Hi, Craig. So good to see you here at re:Invent. I'm Merve. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Example Corp. I'm sure you all know about it. So we are a customer experience platform, and we provide SaaS solutions to organizations globally. And I heard you recently launched a SaaS product, and you wanted to have a quick chat. So yeah, great to see you here, and let's start. Tell me a bit more about your company and where you are at your SaaS journey.
Thanks, Merve. Yeah, great to talk to you here. Yeah, I think we're just a little background first. We're a private equity-owned software company. and been around 20 years, really focused in the healthcare space. So we're focused there. Think about sort of hospitals and large clinics and things like that. So very much kind of larger enterprise kind of organizations. But for us, SaaS is something we just got started on 1 year ago. So we're kind of 1 year in. So it's great to talk to you here.
Okay.
What's going on?
Yeah, cool. So how did your SaaS journey start? Why did you decide to go with SaaS?
Yeah, it was really a technical journey. We were supporting some customers in a managed services model where we had came through really customer request, where they were sort of requested us, hey, can you host this? We don't want to host it ourselves. A lot of these healthcare organizations are really struggling with IT staff and things. And so we took that on. And the main challenge we have now is this maintaining different versions, right? So we're hoping that we can unify around SaaS as an approach. And so, I would say today we're still very much an on-premises company. So SaaS is something we're just getting started on, but really the main motivation was cost optimization and really a technical motivation. And the business is now kind of catching up to that. We're seeing where we can take it.
Okay, interesting. So our journey actually started around like 5 years ago, but at that time, our customer base was mainly US focused, so we had field organization customers based in the US, but we wanted to actually grow into new geographies just to acquire new customers. And at that time, we didn't want to just build an entire field organization in Europe, Asia, Pacific, because it was like costly and also time consuming to find the all talent that would support the whole business. And then at that time, our leadership team made the decision to actually invest a SaaS version of our product. And we thought, like, if we provide this experience to our customers, then we can hopefully support the growth of our business. So that's how we started. And that was definitely a new business model for our team. So like our sales marketing, they didn't know actually what we didn't know. So it was definitely a journey for us. But like 5 years in now, I can say SaaS is our main delivery model, and we have sales, marketing, product, customer support team just working together to support our growing customer base. And while SaaS is a growth model for our company, we also wanted to make sure we provide a frictionless experience to our customers. So we wanted to make sure they also benefit from the SaaS offering, and they have all the cool functions that we develop. And we also wanted to make sure they try our products before they really invest into that. So in order to do that, when we launch our SaaS, we also launch a free trial experience, so where they could just go online, sign up, and really test the product for 2 weeks. And as you can imagine, we put a lot of marketing dollars behind it because it's definitely a new model. We wanted to drive traffic. But one challenge we had was the conversion. So we saw that like the customers signing up for a free trial, but they didn't really convert to be a paying customer. And at that point, we were just thinking, okay, what we are doing wrong. And then that's when we decided to look at some of the customer behavior, how they use our products, what does the product consumption look like. And when we start doing that, we just realized some of our customers really had some challenges to initiate the free trial. They didn't know how to set up the account. They didn't know like how to navigate within the application. And after that, getting that insight, we decided to add some guided tour in our product. So now when our customers sign up for a free trial, there is a video and some like pop-ups within the product that guide them through our experience. The other benefit of having that product consumption data was we realized some of our smaller customers, SMBs, I would say, they didn't actually use all the, like the big functionality features we provided, such as connecting to different ERP systems, BI systems, because they didn't really need that. And that's why they were not paying for our product, because they couldn't validate the huge price tag we had for our product. And at that time, we decided to, okay, let's just launch another tier for our smaller customers so that they can get what they need at a lower price tag. So that's how we, moved more to like a tiered pricing model, and that really made our customers happy, and we were able to really increase the conversion from free trial to actual paying customers. And today, innovation is still at the heart of everything we do, and kind of innovate on behalf of our customers. We want to make sure they continue getting value out of our products. So whenever we have like a new functionality available, we just deploy it and really track the usage and see how our users really like and get benefit out of that. Have you thought about this like whole customer experience when you launch your SaaS offerings?
Yeah, some great insights. First of all, Merve, I was probably should have taken some notes there in terms of what happened over time. But yeah, I think for us, as I said, we're still 1 year in. So a couple things, we're exploring free trials. I'll get to that in a second. But the first thing we tackled was really looking at sort of what's the pricing and sort of packaging around what we have. And at the end of the day, we thought we'd keep it consistent what we have. So it's a user-based and sort of contract model. So we really wanted to create that customer experience. But I think one main challenge we have right now is really around feature parity. A lot of the versions that we're deploying in these environments get heavily customized, right? Or built on sort of many features we've added to over time. And the SaaS offering doesn't offer that today, right? So it becomes not a great comparison, especially for existing customers that are evaluating it. And also for the sales team that's looking at it as well too. One thing we're starting to do now, we see an opportunity with smaller hospitals and clinics that really couldn't afford what we had before, and trying to set up a free trial experience. And I would say ours is a little bit of rubber bands and duct tape with our engineering team behind the scenes and really using it to set up POCs as a model today. But we've made some improvements in sort of what we have now. We're offering product updates twice per year. We think that's a good rhythm for us initially. So we're learning, I think, and we're improving as we go.
Good.
Yeah, I think just to kind of maybe build on that a little bit in terms of how we're operating as a SaaS business, a lot of learning to do here. When I first came on as CPO, I came on a little over a year ago, I kind of looked at our business and I said, what business are we really in, right? So I talked to the CEO and I said, hey, it doesn't look like we're a product company. It looks like we're more of a services company when I look at where our revenue is coming from in terms of support and maintenance and everything else. And so we'd become kind of a consulting organization over time versus a product organization. So that has kind of a two-pronged problem, right? You've got to make that transition to a product organization, then also think about how we shift to SaaS as a new business model. And if I would look at sort of our product team today, I don't think someone I would call a true product manager. These are people that have a lot of industry experience, but they don't have maybe the product management discipline or frameworks or approaches you might think around things like packaging and pricing and messaging and solutions that you see out there. So there's a big challenge there. And I think from a development team perspective, we're somewhere between waterfall, agile, and sort of a DevOps in terms of a model. We're kind of all over the place. And depending on when people entered the organization or what product you're talking about, we're still learning there and trying to figure out what's going to make sense. We're also kind of getting into the SaaS metrics a little bit, right? So we're starting to look at acquisition cost, looking at lifetime value and ARR, and sort of bring those metrics into the business because I think they'll really help us drive forward and get more executive buy-in to what we're doing. So that's kind of where we're at today, Merve, with that. I'd love to learn more about what you're seeing.
Yeah, I can definitely relate with that, moving to service mindset, because that was also a challenge for us because we had like our engineering team who is just focused on developing the product. They didn't really care about the customer experience or anything like that. So it took a while for us to really change that mind shift and say, we are not just responsible for delivering like a great product, but we are responsible for the entire experience of our customers. And one thing that helped us was to putting metrics at the center of everything we do. And right now we are probably using metrics across like our business, technical, operational performance. We initially started with like a very small set of metrics. So we were just, checking the ARR, the churn, just the basic ones many SaaS companies track. But after that, as I said, we just added the product adoption data. So right now, our product management team leverages that product adoption data. They look at unit costs to make sure we are on the right path. Our architects, our engineering team look at the resource allocation just to optimize our cost again. And also as like the leadership team, we have like a health dashboard just showing how our business is doing. So we just look everything from churn, net dollar retention, how our individual customers are doing, how they are growing. So I can definitely say that's been a journey for us, but right now we are really, very much into those metrics, which help us to run our business successfully. The last point, Craig, I want to mention, because this is something that many companies overlook, and it's the go-to-market. So what I realized when I just talked to some of our peers, they actually just go with their existing go-to-market when they launch a SaaS product. They think like SaaS is just another product they are offering to the market, and they don't really look at how they should go to market with that. In our case, we had to rethink the entire go-to-market because initially we were more like an enterprise sales-led organization, just heavily relying on the account executives. But now with all this free trial and everything, I can tell we are more like a product-led company. So we definitely, our experience, our products available on our website, on Marketplace, AWS Marketplace. So our customers can definitely go and start their trials or even like the experience by themselves. We still maintain a small sales team who is kind of working with our strategic customers, but more from like an advisor perspective. But apart from that, we really use the product data to acquire our customers, to retain them, to even expand their usage. So we have like a huge customer success team who is proactively actually looking at how our customers leveraging our solutions. They provide additional use cases for our customers so they stay happy with our products. So I would definitely highlight this go-to-market. And yeah, just tell me a little bit more about how you go to market.
Yeah. Very much a split personality, I think, Merve, for us. Very much a traditional kind of marketing and sales approach. We're starting to think about some of the things that you were a lot further down the path on. But I think one of the challenges primarily is really with our sales team, right? They just don't know how to position and sell our SaaS offering today. So it actually slows things down. SaaS is supposed to speed things up, I hear. But right now, when sort of the SaaS solution is introduced, we have to bring in a product specialist or someone else. And our sales team just isn't versed in talking about sort of the capabilities or differences there. So that's a really, a tough one as well too. I think from a sales perspective, I don't know if our sellers are the right people to be selling the SaaS solution. It sounds like what you have is a different model where you're trying to put the product in front of customers, then surround them with an experience that lets them adopt. We're a long ways from that. I think SaaS is more of a feature for our business today, but I've learned a lot from talking to you, Merve, in terms of where you're at today. And yeah, I'd love to bring our marketing and sales teams in to learn from you as well too, in terms of what's there. So thank you. Great to catch up today.
Yeah, likewise. Enjoy the rest of the event.
Cool. Thank you. So end scene. Certainly, yeah. Thank you. I know you guys aren't clapping for the acting because that was pretty poor. I did a similar role play 2 years ago, and I thought at the time, like, I don't know if this is a good idea, but here I am back doing it again. So anyway, but I hope everyone sort of understood kind of what kind of companies we're portraying, and we exaggerate a little bit for effect, sure, but I can tell you there's a lot of similarities in companies we worked with examples here. We weren't trying to prototype any one, but a lot of the challenges that we see, a lot of the kind of the learnings that we see are ones that we work with organizations every day. And we did a white paper that I mentioned previously, I think, called the Journey to SaaS Framework, where it walks through different stages. And in those, we kind of profiled, or we created these company personas, right? And one persona that I think my company, any company really personifies is something called the toe dipper, right? It's like, oh, this SaaS thing, ooh, it's a little cold, it's a little deep, I'm not sure I want to go in, right? They were not committed to it at all, right? And that caused all sorts of challenges I'll get to in a second, right? And I think you were probably New Horizons.
New Horizons,
yeah. So
all
anyway,
in SaaS.
Yeah, but the paper goes through a number of questions you should ask each stage and provides a lot more depth around those kind of company personas, if you will. But as a way to kind of round out this exercise, I wanted to kind of, like, well, what does it matter anyway? So what? So Merve's company was really aggressively pursuing SaaS. We were conservative in our approach, or at least early on, maybe is the way that we may have gotten to some of the learnings that Merve's company had, just with more time and more focus. But I think one of the key differences I saw was really, ours was a technical transformation, kind of trying to work its way up in the organization. And initially, very early on, you were a top-down organizational model too. But I think one way to look at this is to really look at what's happening around these phases or the metrics you can really measure. And I think that one of the easiest ones from SaaS is to look at revenue growth, right? So we see SaaS companies, even with kind of the current climate today, still growing much faster than traditional software companies. Over 20%, traditional software companies 5 to 10% in terms of what's there. You know, and if I was going to evaluate any company, I certainly wouldn't call them a SaaS company. They're still a very traditional company that's there. I think I wanted to highlight just around customer experiences. We talked a lot about the free trials and the conversion there. You know, and you can see a lot of variance here in terms of free trial. I don't even know if we had a free trial program, right? We had a proof of concept program that was maybe accelerated a little bit by having a SaaS offering, right? But at least for me, if you're creating a SaaS offering and doing all that work to create such a frictionless experience, it benefits you to put that in the hands of people as early as possible and sort of use that as a way to sort of drive the growth that's there. But you can see that conversion rates can vary quite considerably. And I think in Merve's example, Example Corp, right? Very catchy. You know, a lot of automation built around the free trial that had come over time that really drove that. One that I want to talk about that's kind of interesting stat that you may not have seen before is around time to first response, right? This is an initial inquiry about the product or perhaps an existing customer, a user today that's got a question or inquiry and raises their hand. How quickly can you follow up, right? And so, you know, here's where you could see a lot of difference in terms of what's there. You know, if you look at my organization, there's probably a sales team or perhaps inside sales team that's watching for that stuff and responding when they can, but they're not really motivated to respond quickly. Or if you look at a customer success organization that's built, on Merve's example, they could be gold around that. That could be a primary goal for the organization. And we know from sort of data and research that we've seen and looked at, the quicker you can respond, the quicker you have a happy customer, the more they're retained, the more they buy, and what's there. The last thing I want to talk about is we talked a lot about the GTM strategy and the sales cycle. And you know, certainly you could see, I would call what we had is a column B scenario. I don't know if you guys know what I mean by that, but we've effectively created another version of our product that was competing with our own product, or at least our sales team didn't know how to position. And this is a pretty classic, I don't know, it seems like everybody should know not to do that, but we talk to organizations all the time that do this, right? And that was causing confusion and slowed down the sales cycle and what's there. And even with really complex software, I've seen examples where, you know, that move to SaaS can really accelerate the sales cycle. And an example I want to give to kind of end this exercise, I work with a company in Orange County that provides solutions to manufacturing companies, specifically those in defense and aerospace. So really complex software that helps them run their businesses. The company's called iBaseT, kind of a family-run software business. They're a delight to work with. But some organizations, I don't know, Merve, if you had this experience, we meet with them, we go right away, we say, we see a SaaS opportunity, here's the market, here's the opportunity, go as fast as you can, I met with them and I was kind of scratching my head. It's like, how does SaaS fit into this really complex, highly regulated business and sales cycle to defense companies, right, that are out there? And they persevered, right, and they built their initial SaaS solution on AWS. And one of the first things they saw was really a reduction in that sales cycle from months to weeks based on how quickly they could sort of get up and produce sort of an experience for customers around this sort of a proof of concept model. So I think there's a lot to be gained there. So hopefully this isn't a test for your company specifically. We don't have a SaaS test out there, but I think what we tried to highlight in these examples is good versus great, or what some of those differences really mean in your business. And Merve is going to kind of take us further to talk about some resources available to you. Merve?
Yes. So yeah, let's look at some of the AWS Partner Network resources and benefits available for you to build your SaaS journey on AWS. So last year at re:Invent, we launched AWS Partner Pets. And before launching this, we basically had partners like technology partners and consulting partners, but as the AWS services, the breadth and depth of our services evolve, as well as our partners' business models, we then came up with this 5 partner pets, where you can really pick the one or like more than one pets that are really more relevant for your offerings, for your businesses. And this really helps us to provide a targeted resources benefits for your business. And when you get on one of these pets, you actually start leveraging AWS programs and benefits to build, market, and sell your solutions. So when it comes to build, actually, you can use the AWS training and services to build your AWS expertise. So you could do like a foundational technical review, which will basically look at your current offering and just provide some suggestions to really further optimize it. Or you could work with programs such as AWS SaaS Factory to build your SaaS offering on AWS. On the marketing side, you could leverage APN Partners Central, where you can design marketing programs jointly with AWS. There are some funds available that you could leverage for your marketing efforts. There are competency programs that will help you differentiate your business, whether for a specific industry or a horizontal application that you are developing. And on the sales side, AWS provides you programs and benefits that may help you with your go-to-market. You could leverage ISV Accelerate to really leverage the AWS sales teams to sell your products. So just to start with, these are some of the programs available. I definitely encourage you to just check more of them. I only named a few, but we definitely have more to support all these 3 stages. And at this point, I'd like to talk a little bit more about our program, AWS SaaS Factory. So we just finished our 5th year this year, and throughout that 5 year, we were able to work with hundreds of partners. So AWS SaaS Factory is actually a targeted program for organizations building SaaS on AWS, and our team provides both business and technical guidance to those organizations building SaaS. And again, throughout these 5 years, all the hundreds of partners we work with, they really represent a wide variety of industries, from financial services to telco to healthcare. They are different sizes. Some of them are startups, some of them are large enterprises. But in the end, we were able to help them with our business and technical architects, but also some of our packaged content. So 5 years ago, when our team started, our support model was more like a one-to-one engagement. So we would just directly work with our partners, provide those, like the architects, business and technical architects, and, help them throughout their product launch. But as we scale and as we see the demand from the market, we launched AWS SaaS Competency Program in 2020. And the purpose was to really provide resources to partners who would like to get support from system integrators to develop their SaaS offerings. So since 2020, we now have more than 35 competency partners who are supporting our partners building the SaaS solutions. And as we move forward with the market, we realize there are many enterprises actually who are transforming a portfolio of offerings to SaaS. So Capgemini is one of the latest SaaS competency partners that we announced a couple of weeks ago. They, similar to all the other partners, they provide both business and technical advisory to our partners who are building SaaS. So in addition to this human support that you can get from our team or our competency partners, we also package this, the internal knowledge we have, and made it available publicly. So today, if you go to our program page, you will see more than 150 resources that will help you, again, just build that expertise internally, but also provide you tools that you can, quickly start building your SaaS offerings. So we have SaaS Lens, which is a well-architected framework that you can, again, evaluate your current offering. We have SaaS Boost, which will help you quickly set up your first SaaS application, and many others. So at this point, I really would like to encourage you, again, just go and check these resources. Again, they are all available publicly. So with that, I'd like to share a few examples, a few partners that we work with. And definitely, this is not the whole list. We have so many other partners that we work with. But I think the idea here is there are so many different SaaS use cases that we have seen. So that's definitely SaaS. You can tell SaaS is everywhere. So Armory is one of the partners that we recently worked with. And some of you may know them. They provide continuous deployment solutions. And recently, they wanted to make it available to their customers in the SaaS model. So our team worked with them to provide that as a service, continuous deployment as a service model, and they recently launched their SaaS offering. Carrier is another partner we work with, and they are probably not the first company that you think when you think of SaaS, but they actually launched their building automation systems on AWS with the help of our team. Another example, Exasol, based in Germany. I had the chance to directly work with them throughout their SaaS transformation. They are a high-performance analytics database company. They recently launched it again in a SaaS model, and we work very closely to build their free trial experience. So right now, it's available on their website. And one thing that Exasol did, they not only work with SaaS Factory to build their SaaS solution, they also leverage other programs within APN. They work with workload migration program to make sure they have a path for their on-prem customers to move to the SaaS model. They work with ISV Accelerate program to make sure they leverage the AWS sales teams to sell Exasol products to AWS customers. So that's definitely a great example of how they manage or how they leverage different benefits and programs within APN. And the last example is from Asia Pacific. Our team in Korea had the chance to work with Samsung. And as you can imagine, Samsung is a large enterprise. There are so many different teams within Samsung, and they really wanted to build like these SaaS offerings for their customers. But they wanted to make sure they are doing it in a standard way, and they built the SaaS Center of Excellence with the help of our team. So right now, they have this expertise internally, and they didn't stop there. So they also joined the AWS SaaS Competency Program to also share that knowledge with other partners and organizations in the region. So with that, I'd like to kind of move to the AWS Marketplace and how you can leverage it for the SaaS, your SaaS offerings. So Craig, tell us a little bit more about Marketplace.
Yeah, I want to end our session today just talking a little bit more about AWS Marketplace. And I think many of you know Marketplace. It's celebrating its 10-year anniversary this year as well. Over 12,000 transactable listings, over 2,000 ISVs there. Hundreds of consulting partners also have offers there with different models for how end customers are consuming software, whether it's a SaaS listing or an Amazon machine image or even container in terms of what's there. But I want to dive a little deeper in terms of what does AWS Marketplace really mean for those that are providing SaaS solutions, hopefully yourselves or that you're on that path at least. And really I see, kind of who wins with Marketplace. Well, the answer is everyone, of course, right? But first of all, I would say let's focus on the customer, right? So if you look at the convenience that Marketplace offers, that's really an opportunity for customers to get in there and try software and deploy software very quickly in that model. But it also ties often to customers' agreements with AWS, where customers have a multi-year agreement with us in terms of they're sort of buying AWS. And software that's available in Marketplace also works against that agreement. So now they can think about that budget they have there to buy software in Marketplace to actually burn down that budget. The other key advantage, too, I think, is just the opportunity to work through procurement cycles, right? If you have an existing relationship with AWS, you've already crossed those bridges around procurement many years ago. But if you want to try new software, acquire new software, you're working with a new organization, you don't even want to tell your procurement team that you're working with them, right? So AWS Marketplace really reduces that friction. But for software providers, I think the primary benefit really around Marketplace that I see is really shortening the sales cycle, right? And what we see there. And this is what we hear from ISVs consistently. And I think this comes in two ways. I think one, the opportunity to introduce products to customers very early and very seamlessly through Marketplace, but also aligned to our sales teams, right? So this is really a key way that our sales teams work with software companies, right? So they have an incentive based on what's in a Marketplace and what they influence and sell there. So they're very much aligned and to work with you. It also provides a really easy way for them to introduce offerings to end customers if they're available on Marketplace and what's there. So I think that really becomes kind of a nice combo in terms of unifying those teams that are there. And also in terms of getting to that kind of co-sell story, Merve talked a little about ISV Accelerate as kind of a primary program, but also sort of looking how you get that flywheel moving really in terms of the opportunities you're working with our sales team. But that's just a little bit more on Marketplace. I wanted to talk just a little bit about an offering that was just launched in May of this year, is really introducing a free trials experience now in Marketplace. And so in May, they launched this. But why do a free trial? Maybe this is kind of self-evident based on our talk now, but really we see an opportunity to really get into this product-led growth motion. And buyers that consider free trials to be important and sort of critical as a procurement process. And I think that's universal. Providing quality leads, for your sales teams to really go after. And also we see increased conversion rates in terms of what's there and the opportunity to leverage ACE, which is our sort of primary way that partners log opportunities to have our sales team sort of what's there. And so we really see free trials as an innovation that really we're bringing through the Marketplace that allow you to sort of maybe reduce investment you're spending on your own free trials in terms of what's there and what's available. Invite you to go check out that today. Just want to end with a few examples, just kind of highlighting Marketplace from a sort of a software perspective. CrowdStrike talks about cutting that sales cycle down to 50%. These are companies that have really built SaaS solutions from the ground up that are really talking about the benefits of Marketplace. Sumo Logic, New Relic, Tenable talking about sort of the benefits of that trial experience that are there. So a lot more references and a lot more to learn about Marketplace. I really invite you guys to do that. I think there's a couple sessions here at reInvent around Marketplace specifically. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up our talk, and I'll just get some key takeaways here. I started by talking a little bit about the SaaS market and hopefully giving some insight on some of the decisions through that framework, if you will, the many paths I talked to SaaS that were there. And also just talking a little bit about what we see from the market perspective today. Hopefully you found the role play useful in terms of kind of understanding maybe where I fit. Maybe you're in between those two companies somewhere. Maybe not Example Corp or not any company, but somewhere in between. But it was a good way for us to kind of really deliver a lot of nuance in terms of what we saw, in terms of what was there. And then I hope you gained some insight from resources that we shared through the AWS Partner Network and also Marketplace as well too. I've got some kind of next steps for you here to kind of discover some of these resources as well. But really I want to end our talk now and thank everyone for coming today and enjoy the rest of reInvent. Please take the time to fill out our survey. We want to continue to learn about sort of is the content relevant and how can we improve. So please take the opportunity to do that. Thanks for coming. We'll be up here for a little bit if you have questions or anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.